Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for today's webinar on Get to Know Your Robot. And we'll be talking about SupportMenu today. And with me on the phone, I have Josh Billions, our lead developer on SupportMenu, and Nathan Ramseth as well. Sorry, Nathan, I didn't throw a photo of you up on the slide, but thanks for joining us. So I want to talk briefly, overview about SupportMenu. SupportMenu sits in the menu bar of OS 10. 10, 8, and newer. Josh, is that still the case, or are we still supporting 10.8?
It is.
Okay, great.
Yep, 10.8 and higher.
Okay. And we also have an iOS version, which I'll touch on briefly. I want to just very quickly review the primary benefit of SupportMenu. The goal of SupportMenu is more direct communication between you, your IT team, and your customer. And if you want to stand out as an IT organization like we do, we realize that communication is critical to delivering IT support. And anytime we can make that conversation and communication frictionless and easy for the customer, we will do that. And SupportMenu has been great for that very reason. It gets the communication out of the inbox, out of email. It allows the customer to quickly get to links through SupportMenu that we often reference and to communicate with us through ticketing, through our Zendesk ticketing system. Very quickly, the tool is built with the customer in mind. Sometimes we get inquiries from IT wanting to do things that we didn't anticipate, such as viewing Zendesk tickets as a Zendesk administrator. And I want to reiterate over and over again throughout this presentation that SupportMenu is a tool for your customer, and although it's beneficial to IT as a shortcut and quick links and a reference to direct your customers to SupportMenu, it's really built for your customers. So you have to put yourself in the mindset of the customer when looking at SupportMenu. SupportMenu can be customized. We get that question a lot. Can be branded and customized, but that has to be done. There's a little asterisk there. That has to be done with the version that you buy directly from us. If you buy the version through the App Store, you cannot customize it. And that's just a limitation of buying apps through the App Store. Am I right, Josh?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And then, of course, we have integration with Zendesk ticketing, and that's a very nice integration, which I'll show briefly. And we are exploring adding additional integrations beyond Zendesk. So ServiceNow to Autotask, some other ticketing systems out there. We have inquiries outstanding about that. And, we have a website now where we can ask for feedback on that. So I'll show that before I end the presentation. And if anyone out there listening wants to see their ticketing system integrated into SupportMenu, please let us know. The SupportMenu is available for Mac and iOS. However, the iOS has an asterisk because that takes some additional customization that, once again, you have to work with through us to make happen. And I'll speak on that briefly later. An overview of the versions, because this can get a little confusing, but there is a version of SupportMenu in the Mac App Store. That is 99 cents. You could go there today. You could buy it. You could get Zendesk integration, and you could customize it to a certain extent. You cannot brand it, but you can customize the links. And this is really meant for an individual. And if you're going to buy this for your organization, I would encourage you to try the 99-cent version to see if it meets your needs. But if you want to take it further and brand it and have default customization settings for your entire organization, then you buy that directly from us, and we can give you that ability. In addition, we have an iOS App Store version called SupportMenu Mobile, and that is free with the caveat that you can't really do much with it unless you have a Robot Cloud account. And that Robot Cloud account would be purchased through us. And if you do download it, because it's free, you can certainly do that. You'll see that it requires an enrollment key, and that enrollment key you would purchase from us. But if you're a Robot Cloud customer and you're interested in using SupportMenu for iOS, contact us. We can build in your unique enrollment key so that when your customers enter that enrollment key, they get your Zendesk integration. And actually, we're going to talk more about the Mac version here than the iOS version, but when we have questions at the end, we can maybe answer some of that. So customization, when I talk about customization, what does that mean? It means that you can customize the branding, which I'll show you in a minute. You can hide certain tabs, for example, the dashboard tab. You can require administrative authentication for changes or not. That's something you could turn on or off. And then, of course, you can create a default Zendesk account if you use Zendesk, which means you don't have to type so much. You can just prompt the user to type in their Zendesk username and password. So let's do a quick demo. I'm going to turn off my Do Not Disturb, which means I might get some notifications. But I'm going to turn that off because I want to show you my support menu. Now, my support menu has a lot more links than most support menus because I constantly fiddle with it to try to see what it can or can't do. As Josh knows, because I have the ability to break it sometimes, and then he fixes it. So what I want to show you before I forget is I'm going to quit support menu because I have a ticket pending right now, which means it needs a response from me. So I'm going to quit support menu, and I'm going to open it up. And what this will do is it'll trigger this a notification center alert, which would allow me to reply to the ticket if I knew what it was about. But in this case, there's not really a lot here, so I might just go directly to the ticket and read it and respond to it. And so I just wanted to show you that Notification Center is built in the sense that when you respond to a ticket, as Ross did here to my inquiry, the customer, your customer, will get that notification in Notification Center. And that can be very helpful to try to keep the conversation moving. So I have in my support menu, I have multiple Zendesk. Obviously, this would not be the case for many of your users in the sense that we as IT providers would typically only have one Zendesk. However, I also interact with Zendesk, their support center, and Code 42 for Crash Plan. So because of my communication with them, I have added them to my own support menu. Anyone who has a Zendesk theoretically can be added to support menu. And I say theoretically because there are a few caveats where in the case where they've customized their Zendesk beyond the ability for the API to understand what kind of ticket they need, there's a bit of a breakdown there. And that's why I encourage you to test it with your Zendesk or contact us and we can perform a test. And sometimes we can work around customizations and sometimes we're limited by the limitations of the Zendesk API, although we are often in contact with Zendesk to make those improvements. So definitely give us feedback on that. So let's look at the preferences because this is where you're going to do your customization. And I have basically unlocked this version so that I can do full customization. Here's where I can add my Zendesk accounts, and I've added 3 of them, and I can rearrange those, the order if I want. Tools are where I can add local apps. And I currently have this locked, so I'm going to unlock this. And now I can, find an app and rename it if I want. I can have an install URL, maybe if the app doesn't exist. Let's say I'm going to push this out. I wanted everyone to have airport utility, which is probably not something I would do. But as in this example, if they did not have it, then I could say, well, go get it at this URL. And in some cases, that's very beneficial, especially for, in our case, log me in. If they don't have log me in, as we would expect them to, we could send them to a URL where they could download it so we could get remote access. So I could add that tool and I could rearrange it. And then links. You can add any URL or you can add any mail to URL, which is what I've done here. If you just want to trigger an email, you can also display the title in large text, which is what we do with our phone number. So those are kind of the 3 options: web URL, mail to URL, or display the text in large text when it's clicked on, which in this example would be like this. And you can rearrange these. And lastly, it will try to pull the favicon icon. That's what it's done for Zendesk and FreshBooks and Teamwork and Adobe. But in the case of email, there's no favicon to pull, so it puts the generic support icon in place. Same with the display large text. Dashboard, if you have Starter Kit, you are familiar with this area. If you don't have Starter Kit, this really doesn't apply, and this is why we give you the option to hide it. Or if you're using Starter Kit, you can reset the enrollment. And all this is doing is taking information and providing the MAC information to Dashboard, and that's required for Starter Kit. which we're not going to go into today. And then the About menu. This is where you could drop in your own logo and your own tagline. And this is the branding aspect of SupportMenu. Aside from adding your own links, your own tools, your own Zendesk, you can also put in your own logo and your own tagline. And then once it's locked, unless you enable someone with admin privileges to unlock it and go in there and fix that. Essentially, you're gonna have this as your calling card, your business card sitting on their desktop, so that if they have any questions or they dig deeper about SupportMenu, they'll see your information. So that's a general overview of SupportMenu for Mac. iOS is using the Zendesk API to generate tickets, and it gives you some very basic information about your iOS device. You can learn more about that if you just Google or search for SupportMenu. The big benefit I feel of SupportMenu is getting that Zendesk integration, and to be honest with you, that is the biggest struggle, to get people to log in to their Zendesk. So because most people, they don't think of logging into Zendesk. They just interact through email. So what we've done is we've tried to make it as easy as possible, meaning when you create your default Zendesk account and you push this out through your own means or through Robot Cloud, then we prompt them for their username and password. And to be honest with you, a lot of times we do this for the customer. We make it part of our checklist when we're onboarding a new customer or a new user within an existing customer, or even just interacting with them on a day-to-day basis. If we discover they're not connected, let's get them connected. And the best way to do that is simply to go into Zendesk, reset their password, and then enter it into SupportMenu. Because a lot of people they are not aware they have a password in Zendesk. If we have the ability to use some type of certificate or authentication, existing authentication, we would certainly do that, but that's a limitation of the API. The API from Zendesk requires the Zendesk username and password. Username's easy, it's email. The password is the tricky one because they may not have ever created a password. I want to talk briefly about distribution. If you are a subscriber of Robot Cloud, and to go back a little bit, if you have Robot Cloud, you have access to SupportMenu. You may or may not be using it. If you are not, contact us. We'll get you started on it. But every Robot Cloud subscription includes SupportMenu, and we encourage you to take advantage of that. But you can also buy SupportMenu without a Robot Cloud subscription. You can just buy SupportMenu from us, which means you'll need a method to distribute SupportMenu, and you could use anything out there that distributes software on the Mac would work. And we have an article here that talks about that and how to customize it and distribute it. You could also, if you have a very small organization, simply distribute the application by hand. It just may be more difficult to update and patch as we release new versions. And speaking of new versions, we are working on an update that we hope to come out very soon has some El Capitan fixes. And Josh that will be the last update before we migrate to the Swift version. Is that right, Josh?
Correct.
Yeah. Do you want to speak as to why we're going to be moving to Swift? I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Well, Swift just because it's more modern. It's the way everything's headed, but really just generally doing a rewrite for improved stability and performance.
Okay, great. So we're going to put out a new version for El Capitan. Then we're going to rewrite, or we're currently working on rewriting SupportMenu in Swift, the Swift programming language. And going back to distribution, the general concept is the app itself, pretty straightforward to distribute. You can give that, you could just copy that in most cases, although the App Store version has the signing certificate, right, Josh? So I guess you can't really just give it to somebody. They have to go to the App Store and get it.
Right.
Yeah. But if you buy it directly from us, you can put that on your licensed machines, and there's a customization file that you'll want to also include when you distribute, and that's what we outline here. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. That concludes the presentation I have. Do we have any questions? One of the questions we have is around customization. And this is something that we've run into a few times, and Josh, maybe you could speak to it. When we push out a customization for SupportMenu, is it per Mac or per user account? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the customizations will be per user account. That container file that contains all the support menu preferences, those kinds of customizations need to be pushed out per user. For certain customers, we've done new builds of support menu so that it is system-wide. If that's something you're interested in, then we can talk about that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, and obviously it has to be per user account in order to have individuals logging into Zendesk, unless you have a situation where maybe you don't require that. And to Josh's example, you just want to have everyone have the same support menu regardless, then there's a way to do that. One of the other questions we had was, that actually came up here in the office recently, was, hey, why don't we include the Zendesk ticket number in support menu? And we actually do include the ticket number. We just don't make it very upfront. So if you go into a ticket, I've got a demo ticket here, and if you hover over the name, it will display the ticket number. And in this case, it says click to view request number 170001, which is kind of a fun ticket number. So the ticket number is there. I don't have any suggestions on where we could display ticket number today without muddying up the interface, but maybe we'll consider that. I don't know, Josh, maybe we could just add another line right here with the ticket number. I don't know, something to think about, but it is there. You can hover over it, you can click on it. It will take you to the ticket online. And this brings me back to the point I mentioned early on, which is the Zendesk integration is for end users. So you saw that I clicked that ticket and it brought me online. But what I'm looking at here is an agent interface because I'm logged into Zendesk as an agent. This is where it can get confusing. If I want to test support menu, I need to be logged in as an end user. So I've created a end user account simply for testing. Yeah, the name of that account here, Benito Grinder, and I use a totally different email address. We get a lot of people who buy support menu, whether from the App Store or sometimes directly, and we think we've made it clear. They install it, and then they start wondering why their tickets aren't showing up. And their tickets aren't showing up because they are Zendesk agents. And the best place for a Zendesk agent to live is in Zendesk on the web. But a Zendesk customer is support menu is built for Zendesk customers, or I believe they call them end users in the system. So have to be logged in as an end user. While logged in as an end user, you will see open and pending tickets. Josh, do we do on hold tickets? I forget.
I believe they show up.
Okay, I think they do as well. But solved tickets do not show up and closed tickets do not show up. One of the things we're looking at is adding solved tickets, because typically a solved ticket will be still editable, or you can respond to it for a period of time before it's closed. So we would like to show solved tickets, basically recently solved tickets. But once the ticket becomes closed and archived and locked, there's really not a benefit to showing that in support menu, because we only want to show active conversations. One thing I didn't cover is the very cool fact that support menu is localized for English and Danish, for all of our Danish listeners out there. It is Danish,
hey,
isn't
Ben,
it?
I just want to. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nathan.
I just wanted to jump in and confirm that on-hold tickets do show up as long as they're assigned to that user within their Zendesk.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks for checking on that.
Yeah.
And
no
let me see here. Support menu. I'm going to go to the App Store. Dutch. It's Dutch. I keep doing that, Josh. I'm sorry if I offended anyone by confusing Dutch and Danish, but it's Dutch localization that we have, and we have that because we have a user who requested that, and we said, hey, that would be great if you can help us with the translation. We can do that. So if there's anyone out there who needs support menu in their own language, we just need you to help us with the translation, and we build that in. Okay, and that about wraps up our time. So once again, thank you very much, everyone, and keep the questions coming, keep the feedback coming, and we'll see you next month. Thanks. Bye.